Welcome to our show. Today, I have a great guest who has been in my life for about 7 or 8 years now, originally from New Zealand. She did many studies in Australia and moved to France. And today, our interview will take place between Victoria, Canada, and Marseille, France, with my great friend, Charlotte Gillbanks. Let's bring her in. Hello, Charlotte. Welcome to our show.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so I just wanted, before we kind of go into our little talk and discussion, I wanted to see if you could just let us know a little bit about your background, your educational background, where you come from, and where you are now.
Yeah, well, I was born in New Zealand. I lived there until my mid-20s. I was educated there. I went to pharmacy school to become a pharmacist, and I was educated there. And then soon after I qualified as a pharmacist, I moved to Australia. And so most of my professional life was working in Australia. And then I met a French man. So
That
I ended
happens.
up, and that happened. I ended up moving to France around 10 years ago. So since then, I haven't been working as a pharmacist. I was working in the field of integrative pharmacy, which is like this, the integration of pharmacy or more allopathic type medicine with more of a naturopathic approach. So I was working in that sort of zone of integrating these two sides of like medicinal healing and treatment. And so since I've moved to France, I'm not really working on, well, I'm not at all doing that anymore. And I've moved into teaching yoga and just, continuing my own journey, my own spiritual and physical journey. And France is a pretty cool place to do that. It's a very healing place. It's been very healing for me to be here. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So one thing that I admire, I guess I would say, is just that I just find you to be very holistic in your way of thinking and living. It's part of who you. I feel like it's part of who you are. It's not just this is who I am professionally or whatever. And so I find it great to talk to someone who has some grounded scientific background and then more of the intuitive side, holistic approach, somebody that you did work and see really what happens with Western medicine and how that works in the pharmacy. There's obviously pros and cons that you are very, very aware of.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so we've had all these interesting conversations about those type of things. And because you're also part of you have a very strong yoga practice, and we've worked together, done a lot of workshops together. It's very interesting also to hear your opinions about what's happening in the yoga world sometimes, where you feel your place is or is not. So
That's a
like
rabbit
if we were
hole.
just to, yeah, like if we were just to
Yeah.
be very honest right now, like there's so much going on, regardless of COVID. There's just a
Yeah.
lot of
Totally.
movement and change in the yoga world. It changes and evolves all the time, just like everything in life.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own experiences. And so, maybe people that practice yoga who are students from the outside don't really know the intricacies, and I would say the hypocrisies, because there's a lot of weird
Hmm.
stuff going on within the yoga world. Where do you stand today as far as your place in the yoga world? Where do you feel? Do you feel you fit? Do you feel like it's not for you anymore?
It's been an interesting journey for me over about the last, let's say, the last 12 months. I've just started, in the last 12 months, perhaps 18 months, there's been a lot of stuff coming out about the abuses in the yoga world, power abuses, physical abuses, sexual abuses. And, it's sort of opened up my eyes to this whole new train of thought for me. Anyway, it's a new train of thought of understanding how we tend to split ourselves off, and by that I mean how we kind of like we move away, and I see this happening in the yoga world a lot, how we tend to split ourselves off from the realness of our experience in favor of our idea of what a spiritual experience is. So, but to kind of expand on that, I think that in the yoga world and in spirituality in general, there's this tendency to kind of escape, to kind of try to escape the human experience and the reality and the, sometimes the harshness, but also the joy of the human experience in yoga, in our yoga practice, by perhaps, I don't know, there's all sorts of practices that take us out of our body rather than bringing us more into our body. And for me, yoga is a practice that that hopefully will do both. It'll bring us more embodiment, more of an ability to be really in the realness of the human experience, which includes a lot of pain, it includes a lot of joy and everything in between, but also to use it to just to access that more mystical side of ourselves as well. But true mysticism requires us to stay in the body as well. And I see too much of the escapism that doesn't resonate with me. I want to stay in that zone where I'm working towards constant integration, constant, just that dance for wholeness, that dance between all of the aspects of who I am as a person, as an individual, as a spiritual being, all of those things. I want more of a dance within those things. And I found in the yoga world that there was too much of that escapism for me, relinquishing power where we don't need to relinquish power, and also people taking power where it makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I've been dealing with that as well. And I definitely understand there are different styles out there. Some definitely bring you out of your body and even tell you that your body's not even important.
Yeah.
Like there are teachers that will say that. And maybe that made sense a couple hundred years ago when people were, physically manual work all the time. And it was really a way to become more balanced because they were in their bodies so much that maybe they needed that. But nowadays we're so much out of our body, in our heads, and in
we're up in
virtual worlds.
Yeah.
I don't find
totally.
that we need that. Well, no. I can't say what people need, but I do feel that we do need to kind of say, okay, I'm gonna get in my body right now and see what's going
grounded
on.
Experience. Yeah, totally. And that grounded experience of just what it is to be human.
Yeah, and then what can be dangerous is, especially when people are new students, or it could be any level of experience, but you have sometimes that thought that there's a teacher out there that knows you better than you know yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like humans do that a lot with just with their power. They think somebody knows better, somebody else has the answers. And so it's almost comforting if they find some kind of mother or father figure role that can say, like, I know what you need, Charlotte, and I'm gonna give you all the answers.
I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah. And for me, that's born of our Judeo-Christian culture, where we have, for a couple of thousands of years, we've relinquished our power to a god. We've relinquished it to something outside of ourselves, rather than more bringing that power back into our body, and that our own autonomy, our own intuitive sense. And it's a kind of it's the masculine in favor of favoring the masculine, and not favoring or not integrating these more feminine aspects. So I think that it's an inevitable result of the culture that we're in, that will transfer those things into the yoga practice. And unfortunately, there's people who will inevitably try to fill those power roles. It's human nature. It's what humans do. We try to get power if we don't feel like we have our own. So and sometimes holding power over others is the way that it's done. And yoga or spirituality is not immune to that. In fact, I think there's an argument to make that it's actually more susceptible to those sort of power abuses, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the more you're experimenting and going to different workshops and being with different teachers, you see different ways, teachers who have their own style, and you also end up seeing a lot of students. And what's interesting is seeing sometimes a type of powerful teacher who is known to be somebody who can help you change your life or whatever. And you have to go into those workshops knowing, like, I can learn from this person, but I need to know that I need to still be true to myself
Totally.
and be aware when I'm giving my power away to that person, thinking that they know what I need. And I
Yeah.
can stay open to their feedback, but that does not mean that I have to do what they say. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they know the way for me. And I've been the type of person where I've listened to my teachers because they're my teachers. And luckily, I don't feel that I've been that abused, but I have seen situations where students reject the teacher 100%, and that it
Yeah.
creates this huge struggle. And then the other students think, like, why is she not giving in to the teacher? Why is she rebelling? Why isn't she doing what the teacher asks? Why,
Mhm.
And you can see that power struggle going on. And the student actually just knows their boundaries and their limits and knows that whatever the teacher is asking does not make sense for them. And it's really
Yeah.
been interesting for me to see when that happens in a class setting. Um, Students who already have a strong sense of who they are not going to just be like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say, And then you do see
Yeah.
students that just fall apart and give everything the teacher wants. And then you can see that there's something kind of unhealthy happening, because the teacher's kind of filling up with that power, like, wow, I'm going to take advantage of this. And I know that that student's weak. It's almost a prey. I'm the predator in a maybe subconscious, or it can be a conscious way,
Yeah.
where the teacher feels like they need more power because they're not, like you said, feeling on their own
Yeah.
authentic
Their
power.
own personal power. Yeah.
And you see that all over the yoga world. Students sometimes think, if I give in, I'll attain and I'll become this person
Mm.
I'm supposed to be. And then this teacher's going to
Yeah.
love me. And I want the teacher to love me. And as a teacher, you can sense when students adore you in a way that is, they don't know who you are. So it's like
Yeah.
a
It's a
projection.
projection.
It's
Totally.
projection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so sometimes you can feel like, wow, that's so great that that student thinks I'm amazing. However, they don't really know
Yeah.
me, and I need to be a little careful and make sure I don't take advantage of that.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Or it's the flip side. It's a student who doesn't know you, but already hates you. And
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's a projection.
it's a projection. And as a
Yeah.
teacher, sometimes you have to say, like, they don't know who I am yet. They're projecting certain things on me, and I can't take it too personally and feel offended or feel like I can't work with them or that they have a major problem. It's just that I need to be very aware of these projections, because it can flip and come from hate to love or
Yeah.
love to hate. And
Yeah.
they're
Real quick.
searching for something from me that I don't want to give, because I don't want to be in control of who they are. I really want to give them that freedom.
Yeah.
But in the
In
yoga
their own
world, you
way.
see a lot of those hungry teachers that want the adoration and
Yeah.
will, almost like a bully, like Trump, almost like, get rid of you if you're not going to adore them and follow their rules. It's kind of like, do what
Yeah.
I say and love me and give me that adoration,
Yeah.
or you're out of here and you're nothing.
Yeah. 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 Oh, I mean, that's a massive subject, but our modern yoga is based on a very disciplinarian background, coming out of India with these, post-colonial India with these very authoritarian masculine figures, and there's a long history of abuse in the yoga world now, and I don't think we've shaken that off. I think there's lots of, it's slowly coming out that there's multiple abuses, and obviously there's a range of this, but this can happen from full-blown manipulation and sexual abuse, like cult sort of dynamics, down to I mean, sure, we're all human, and it makes us feel good when a teacher is telling us we're awesome and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the risk of falling into an unhealthy power dynamic in that is huge unless you understanding, yes, this is a projection. I need to have my boundaries with this. This is actually not about me. This is about how they see me, which is actually probably not really how I am at all. Just understanding those things, having a conscious awareness that this is a projection. It's, and that, I mean, even that we all are students and we all are teachers. And I'm even, I'm still doing my own work on this, but I'm even uncomfortable with the teacher student type dynamic in that situation. And it's not that I'm against that in the absolute. I'm uncomfortable with how it is in the yoga world. Like, there has to be teachers, there needs to be students, and we're all learning and teaching each other. But when there's that set up power dynamic, I think it's just in between adults, it's and especially in anything where we're starting to move around people's spirituality and belief systems, and wounding, and anywhere where we're getting into that territory, it's just ripe for trouble, even from just very minor psychological trouble to full blown damage, physically and psychologically. So back to the beginning of your question is, for me in the yoga world, I don't feel like I fit in what it is right now. And I don't have an all-knowing view over what the yoga world is, but I tend to make my decisions very intuitively. And for me, intuitively right now, the yoga world is not where I want to be. I'm really happy with my own practice. My yoga has become very personal. It's become a very integrated journey for just me, and so I've tended in the last 6 months to a year to kind of pull away from the yoga world, and just do my own practice. And I said, I'm still finding my way,
which is like how it's always going to be, I think.
Yeah,
And
totally.
what is interesting is, for me too, I just find I was in that for so many years, ran a studio, trained teachers, and went to trainings for myself. And the deeper I went, the more you find, the deeper you go. So some people that are maybe watching this and just go to a class and it's a 1 hour and it's fun and you leave and you feel great, it might be harder for those type of people to grasp what really can go on when you're in a community of training teachers, being with other teachers, where people's issues and wounds come up, and you're really dealing with people who are looking to heal certain things, certain aspects of themselves, or basically move from one religion to what they think is another religion or another way. And
or another
so
belief system somehow.
exactly.
Another dogma.
Exactly. And so some people think, oh, I'm relinquishing my past, I'm not really Catholic anymore, but then they're adhering to whatever new rules and new beliefs they think yoga is supposed to be. So maybe they'll read the ancient texts and then they'll quote certain things, regardless of whether they have integrated and really feel those things. It's almost like they're trying to convince themselves this is the real way. This is the right way. This is what spirituality and yoga is about. And I'm a yogi. And so now I believe this. And if you don't believe this, you're not a yogi. And so it kind of becomes very dogmatic, where you're either you belong or you don't. And if you don't do this, think this, feel this, accept this, then you're not really spiritual. And what's so complex about it is each person has their own idea of that. And then sometimes they throw their judgment on you or talk about others behind their back. Oh, she's not really a yoga teacher because she does that or says that or whatever. And then
she eats meat or whatever.
It could be so many different things,
Could be so many different things.
And we've talked before about like being grounded and that being part of being human. So nowadays, especially with the stress of COVID, the unknown. We've both talked like that. We're observing a little bit about certain people out there that are now almost, how do I say this, like cutting off real deep feelings of fear by
Yeah.
saying, I have no fear because I'm a yogi. And
Yeah. I'm calm.
and
I'm, yeah. Yeah,
right,
totally.
like I'm
Those
always
like the
calm.
mantra. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Totally.
happy and calm. And then deep down, it's like, well, what's really going on deep down? Because it's awesome to feel calm and grounded and see clearly. But with that comes clarity of everything, clarity of your fears, clarity of your anxiety, clarity of
Totally.
anything. Not that we have to say, oh, it's normal to feel anxious every single day of our lives. No, but maybe there are days that you are feeling something that is not spiritual. And so you say to yourself, I can't feel this because that means that I'm not really practicing yoga.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I mean is for me just a crazy perfectionism that, yeah, like, that sort of stuff weighs heavily on me when people split themselves off like that and are trying to remove themselves further and further away from their the wholeness of their human experience. And you and I have talked a lot about this choose love over fear thing, and just all these little memes that do the rounds. And you know it ultimately those things are going to be unhelpful whenever we're splitting ourselves off into these false polarities. It's just not going to be helpful. And for me, I mean, fear is it's an evolutionary response. We've evolved with it. It's very it's very human. It keeps us safe. It's healthy when it's in the present moment, and it's giving us some intuitive guidance. Okay, I need to be, we're not running away from tigers anymore, most of us,
Yeah.
but it gives us that present moment awareness. Okay, there's a danger here. It might be psychological, it might be physical, it might be whatever it is, financial, whatever. It's a present moment. It's awareness. We go, okay, that's danger. I'm out of here. It might be a yoga teacher who you go, oh, he's trying to put me into a pose that I'm not ready for. This is danger for me. Present moment, fear, done. You remove yourself as best you can. But when it becomes unhealthy, as if it's not in that present moment, and you don't move through it quickly, you're living through traumas that have brought you fear. You're reliving experiences that are in here, not necessarily in the present moment reality. And I think that's what people mean by choose love over fear. But I don't know, it puts this false polarity into life, which is not polarity. It's this balance of moving through the wholeness of our human experience. And sometimes we're fearful, and thank goodness, thank goodness we're fearful, and thank goodness we can keep ourselves safe. And personally, I wouldn't trust a person who says, oh, I'm not fearful. I don't, I'm not, I don't have fear. Like, I wouldn't trust them because they couldn't keep me safe. They
Yeah.
couldn't, I'm not going to walk through the jungle or any aspect of life with someone who says I'm fearless. Like,
Right.
really, you can't keep me safe. It's craziness to me, So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I think
Just
fear, like
that's one
I kind of
example.
enjoy fear. Not that I'm like this adrenaline like rush person that's going to bungee jump. Like I don't mean like that. Like I like stare at the face of fear and I'm going to jump off a mountain with my bungee cord because that's amazing. Like I don't need that adrenaline rush. I actually question people that need that. Like I wonder why like
Oh, yeah.
life isn't enough. Like if God or the universe or whatever is out there watching us, like I why do we need to like create more
Yeah.
drama, more adrenaline? I think we already have enough. But
Yeah, and
I
there's
find
recklessness involved in those sort of decisions.
yeah,
They're often not super present moment decisions. They're possibly avoidance of feeling something,
yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think fear's so interesting to just to be aware, like, okay, I'm afraid. This is a little scary.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move forward anyways. And it's
Or
okay.
not.
Yeah.
Or
And it's
not.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if that fear is inside me.
Yeah.
And even like little things, for example, I mean, you can kind of break things down as like feeling a certain energy. Like what's the what's the feeling energetically of fear in your body? What is it?
Yeah.
And it's an energy that actually can propel you forward if you feel
Totally.
that you're not in danger, but there's something slightly scary. Like, even for example, if you're going to give a speech in front of a bunch of people and you're just like, how am I going to get past this fear? Or you're
Mm.
playing in a concert in front of somebody. And I remember, like, my mom would say to me, like, just think of that fear as an energy and use it to give the best presentation that you have. You know what I mean? Like, use
Yeah.
that
Totally.
energy to really move it through you and just get out there. And that's so, it's easier said than done, but sometimes you can
Totally.
kind of switch that in your head and be like, wow, I have a lot of energy right now. I'm going to try to,
Yeah.
like, get it out there and use it with my voice, my body, my actions, my presentation, my whatever I can, or it could be used in many different circumstances, maybe some that are not as safe, because presenting or playing music is somewhat safe. Could be something
Yeah.
else, but there's
Totally.
so many leaders out there, like Nelson Mandela was one of those who basically said something about fear, about it just moving forward, or being a leader is not because you have no fear, it's because
Yeah.
there's fear and you go anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think those type of things are important, or can be healthy,
Totally.
because like you said earlier, sometimes we go into fear and we just start, like, imagining in our head, well, what if, and
Yeah.
then you end up doing nothing.
Yeah.
And so taking those steps forward in a moment of fear, not letting it paralyze you, almost, I feel like it kind of sends you messages like, oh, next time, you know I can go ahead again because I did it already and it was
Yeah.
okay, and I have
Yeah.
that strength to work with my fear. Like, it can kind of be
Yeah.
an exciting way to build self-confidence too.
Oh, I mean, totally. I mean, fear is like, for me, it's a key part of our intuitive system. Like, it's saying to us, okay, look alive. Okay, it might be like you said, you're a concert pianist, and that you're going out in front of this massive crowd. Sure, there's this really natural fear and apprehension, and all of those things. And for me, it's not about getting rid of that fear. It's not about trying to wish it away or stop it, or in any way. Like you say, it's about understanding what the message is, understanding where it's healthy fear that's going to move you towards what you want from life, and when it's an unhealthy fear that's holding you back, that's not helping you to reach your potential. And that's where just coming to know yourself better is really, really important, because it doesn't just stop at, oh, I'm feeling fear. Then it's that question of, okay, what is this? Why am I feeling fear? Okay, what is it trying to say to me? Am I in a present moment danger? No. Okay, what is this? You know what I mean? It's just about that conscious kind of just reflection, that moment to choose your reaction or your response to whatever the fear is. It's
Yeah.
not about choosing love over fear. It's to disregard fear. It's like, okay, what is this fear? And then how do I want to use it? How do I want to act from it? How do I? Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting is leaders that are evil, I'm going to use that word, that really want to control people, want to control populations. That's such a big thing that they use, right? Like, they use that fear, create fear, instill that fear to control certain populations.
Totally.
And we can see it, like, today, we see it today right now happening with the US.
Yeah.
And so when, like, somebody says to you, like, yeah, don't choose fear, choose love, like, what does that even mean? you know
What does it mean in that I mean, as human beings, we're never going to get rid of our fear. It's completely, I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, the politics of all of this is just a whole nother question. But, um, firstly, not electing leaders that are sociopaths is a really
yeah.
good idea. But understanding what the fear is driving us to, we get a choice within fear, you know? And if we're not listening to it, we're just choosing love over it, and it's like that escapism we were talking about with yoga. Oh, I'm calm, I choose love. No, there's a lot of fear there. What is this fear? What can this fear allow you to understand about where you have power and where you don't? Like, where do you have power? You have power to go to the voting booth and vote against a sociopath. You know what I mean? This is, and if you're not listening to that fear, you're not going to turn up at the voting booth. You can say, I'm not political, I'm choosing love. No, get out there, use your fear of these, leaders that you don't like, whoever that may be,
Yeah.
and do something about it. Like, if you listen to that fear, you have choice. You have the ability to act. You have a really important intuitive message. And if you're just trying to escape into this, love world, it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. All of this is part of our human experience. We won't all live in this love world. It's just not. I mean, we only need to look around us. That's not how life is.
Exactly.
And
You're
why
right.
would we
Yeah.
try to separate ourselves from the reality of life into some sort of escapist, I'll only feel the things that I want to feel? No, that's not going to help the world right now. And I mean, I don't want to go into too much of a rant, but
No, but I
like
want you to, like, because it's so interesting.
this links back. I've lost my train of thought now. I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like COVID, certain political situations around the world is asking us to feel our fear right now and understand what decisions do we want to make differently. And this is why I'm not resonating with the yoga world, is because there's too much of that split. They only want to feel all the good stuff. I want to use my yoga to feel everything.
Yeah.
I want to feel the depths of my humanity, the depth of my pain, the depth of my connection to others, the depth. I don't want to escape into some, metaphorical cave of enlightenment. I want to feel everything more deeply right now, because this is where I have power, and this is where I have power as just one citizen to do what I can to change the situation. And the people who are trying to escape that fear, they don't, like, you remove that choice. You remove that option of understanding where you have real power and where you don't.
Yeah. It's almost like a cop out. Because
Totally cop out.
it's a total
Totally a
cop
cop out.
out. And so some people are just afraid, just the fear makes them afraid, like, of feeling. Because often, and I've talked about this before in other podcasts, but it comes up a lot about society's idea of what we should allow ourselves to feel or express or whatever, especially women. Like, we shouldn't get upset, we shouldn't
Be
get
angry. Yeah.
angry,
Yeah.
all those type of things. And just like being afraid, then sometimes think like, I'm going to just close in, this is too overwhelming. If I go into those feelings, sometimes people think if I start going there, I'll never get out. I hear people
Yeah.
say that, and it's
But
like,
actually, it's the opposite. Paradoxically, it's the opposite. If you don't go there, it will keep stalking your ass. Like, you go there, you sit in it as best you can in the moment. Obviously, you don't overwhelm yourself. You don't make yourself, like, you don't just rush in there. You push up against the edges of your fear or whatever it is. But I mean, when you learn to sit with it, it's going to be way less scary than if you just keep ignoring it, keep trying to get rid of it, keep trying to cut it off. It's going to stalk you more, and it's
absolutely.
going to blow up into this massive thing that it didn't need to if you just spent however long you need to spend just sitting in it. Feel it.
Yeah.
When you've had enough of it, turn on Netflix. You've had enough of worrying about COVID and what you can do about the political situation. Turn on Netflix for a while. It's conscious decision. You escape it, and you come back to it when you can. Like, it,
Yeah.
it's not an all or nothing thing. You dance with it. Yeah.
I think the fear, COVID with the fear, is, I believe, really like a message. Like, we should be afraid right now. And it's good to go
Yeah.
into that, because now is the time where we're going to come up with real solutions, because these are not imagined fears. We're actually seeing all the flaws and all the weaknesses in our systems. And if we're afraid, there's a good reason for it. Like, this is the moment to actually be like, this is scary. What can we do to make things better? What can we do to change the system? What can we do to make sure people are seeing all of this and not being, diverted into some weird belief of love or some weird belief of putting the blame on somebody else or
Yeah.
manipulating the public that's afraid and saying, oh, this is why this is happening, and things are going to be fine, things are going to go back to normal, I'll take care of everything, instead
Mm.
of giving up and being like, yeah, I'm just going to leave it in somebody else's hands, they're going to be a great person, they're going to help us out of this. There are ways where we can be heard, like everyone thinks like, well,
Totally.
I can't make a difference, but on a small local basis you can, with your friends and your family, and then that just gets bigger. In your own
Totally.
community, that gets bigger. And on
Yeah.
a different podcast we spoke to Mark, who is around 22, but when he was 16 he was out there in his community trying to change laws, a 16-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And imagine like the
We
politicians
all have.
saying, I'll do this if you do this for me. Like, even they're already saying that to him. If you want your way, you're going to have to do something for me. And he was thinking, well, for the greater good, it's worth it.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
go do
Yeah.
this. And then just kept
Yeah.
moving
That's my price.
forward until he ended up, it took him 3 years to get a law passed in
Good
Florida
on him.
about it being illegal to text while driving,
Mm-hmm.
and there
Good
had
on
already
him.
been accidents. There had already been enough proof that there needed to be a law. It was the only state in the entire US that didn't want to pass a law for super weird political reasons, right? And he just moved forward. And so
Good on him.
I'm just, yeah, I just
I
think,
mean, what, like the one person can change a lot, you know? Yeah. Just takes
yeah,
that one person to sit in their fear and also to sit in their, like, sit in their fear so they understand where they have power. He's fearful of, like, let's just assume he's fearful of someone texting and having a car accident, someone he loves, someone hitting him, there's some really healthy fear in there, you know, and it leads him to understand where he has power. Okay, I have power to get out there and change this, and I'm going to do everything I can to do it. Yeah,
yeah.
totally. I mean, one person has a lot of power, way more power than we think we do. Yeah.
Yeah, and one message that I liked that he said was basically, sometimes we see the big picture and we see that so much needs to change, and then we just do nothing because we're like, there's no way. But he's like, don't look so big, look just locally,
Yeah.
because locally people will listen to you. The town hall, the people that represent the government in your city are there to listen to you, and they actually will. And start there. That's where it
Yeah,
starts. Like, you
totally.
don't
It's a
need to
great
think
message.
like, I have to get
Yeah.
heard by the entire country or the whatever. Just
Yeah.
start local, start small. And if you have
And each
that,
step will lead to the next one. And yeah, totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good on
like you
'em.
said, it probably stems from fear. People that see like, wow, if this doesn't change, this is what the reality is going to be, and this is awful. And I don't want to
Yeah.
see that. And that's where I feel that we are today.
Mm.
So many of us are on the same page about thinking we need to change things, and we're not sure how it's going to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. Slowly and one step at a time. Yeah. And
Yeah.
just, and listen, like, back to the whole theme of this little discussion is listening to our fears, listening to whatever is arising, not splitting ourselves off into these false polarities. And then just getting really clear on where we have power and where we don't. And it'll change from day to day. It'll change from probably hour to hour. Okay, today I just do not have the power to do that. But tomorrow maybe I will have the power. Maybe I'll have it within me to do something. You know what I mean? It's not absolutes. Like, it's not okay, I have to do something. No, like, still dance with your limits, dance with your boundaries, dance with what you can do. Just that dance with your own sense of power and what you actually can do without burning yourself out. Yeah, burnt out people aren't very effective. So you gotta. Yeah,
Yeah, it's always about finding that balance. And
totally.
that's what I find very holistic with you, is that keeping that balance and really embracing everything. Like you've said, don't be fragmented. Really
Yeah,
take every part of who you are and look at it, accept it, and know that different moments of your life or during different situations, those parts are necessary. Like you'll be using them, you'll be tapping into them instead of
Yeah.
rejecting them and being like, I hate that part of myself. I got to change.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just really so believe that when we get in touch with those sides, we can find out how they're useful, or maybe realize,
Totally.
oh, that was useful before. I needed that before to survive
Yeah.
or to whatever. And now I can use it for
Yeah.
something else or transform it in a different way so it's not so dramatic or lethal or poisonous or
Yeah. Yeah. So
hurtful
it's not,
or
yeah, it's
manipulative or
not hurting
whatever,
me. Totally.
or
But
hurting
then,
others.
yeah,
Yeah.
as soon as we're, exactly like you said, fragmenting ourselves to try to get rid of something that is just a part of our experience, it's always going to screw us over. Like always. You can't, it doesn't work. It doesn't
Yeah.
work to try and get rid of your past, get rid of this, it just doesn't, it won't work ultimately. It'll come back in some other form, to, yeah, bite you
It's
on
so
the ass.
interesting because, like, we've talked about the sacredness of anger, for example. And I was also thinking the other day, I was talking to a friend, and so many people are going through their homes and getting rid of stuff they don't want, like they're doing the spring cleaning thing and getting really organized. And so my friend said to me, oh, I came across some of my old journals. She used to journal everything, like from high school, college, and everything. And she said, I burned them all. I burned all of them. And I was like, oh, why? And she said, well, I don't want other people to find them like when I'm gone, because I don't I don't know if that's how if I want people to know those things about me. And I thought about it and I thought, well, you know what? You know those things about you, and those things are sacred, and it's up to you if you share those things.
Mm.
It's not like they're secrets. It's just that that's sacred, who you were at that moment in time, and you'll never erase that or forget about it, but you do have the right to share it or not share it. And I thought,
Totally.
yeah, it makes sense to me. Like, yeah, there's certain things I don't need my kids to know or want other people to know. It was for me. I worked through it, and it's not like you're burning your past. It's basically like
Yeah.
a decision to share or not share, but still know who you were and now who you are. And she was like, I like myself, who I am today, so much better. Like, I'll
Yeah.
never forget that I was like that, but I
Yeah.
don't know. And I thought that
And
was
that's the journey of
interesting.
life, huh? Yeah. And it's all about intention. I mean, if she burnt it because she was trying to get rid of her past, then it might have a different psychological and emotional effect on her than if she's making this truly sacred and aligned decision to say, I'm willing to let that go now,
Yeah.
and and I'm burning it in the sacred fire of, I'm transforming it now. It's okay. It can go now. It's just all about intention, really, not necessarily about the details of what you're doing. It's about why you're doing it, and
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, how it aligns with the truth of who you are. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
I thought that was such
yeah,
an
good on her.
interesting thing that she did because, yeah, the intention behind it was,
Yeah, it's very ritualistic
yeah,
when it's done in that way. Yeah, totally. I mean,
yeah.
ritual is hugely powerful. Yeah.
I think it's like, it's good to be like, yeah, I have those parts of me, or I used to be like that, and I'm not like that anymore, because you really
Yeah.
aren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And or you really are. You know what I mean? But you've just integrated them.
yeah,
You've just integrated them so they're not driving the train anymore. Yeah. It's not, yeah, like
yeah,
that's like, it's not that I don't need to get rid of it. It's just that I've integrated it, I've transformed it, I've moved past it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of it's so important for, like you said before, like our human experience is so vast about all the emotions we can feel. That's really
Yeah.
what being human is. Because if you think, oh, we should all be love and peace, and
Yeah.
look out at the world and that's not what it is,
It's not what it is.
then
Yeah. Exactly.
if you're trying to convince yourself that that's how it should be, then
You're no longer in reality.
you're no longer in
and
reality at
and you
all,
can't be effective outside of reality. I mean, let's just look at Trump's response to COVID-19. He can't sit in the reality of what it actually means for him and his country. So he creates this reckless optimism, and therefore he's completely ineffective because he's unable to deal with what the reality of the situation is. And that's why listening to, if he just listened to his fear or his insecurities or his, just gave them a place at the table, you get to hear what it wants to say, and you're in the reality of the moment. And then again, it comes back to that whole thing. You have power in that, in the present moment. So yeah, I mean, that's just one real life example that I see. But unless you're living in the reality of what is actually true, and I mean, ultimately, that's the for me, that's the journey of integration, is that you just get more and more clear on what is actually true and what's in front of you, rather than wishful thinking or what you want things to be or what you hope things would be. You just can sit really in the moment and the real truth of the moment, and that's, for me, that's where you come to. And yogis might call it enlightenment, but for me, that's just integration. It's just, you're integrating all of the parts of yourself so you can just sit really in that moment and listen to all of the parts of who you are as they arise, and then they just move through you quite quickly. They move, they come and go,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The enlightenment thing, yeah, I don't really know what that's supposed to be. I guess just, I don't even know. Like, it almost seems like a false hope or something. I
Well,
used
if
to,
it's sorry,
no,
go ahead.
no. I mean, if it's that idea that you're untouchable and you're always in this love and
Yeah, I mean, it's
you're
just
always
not
living
real
in the
life.
present moment, like, I think that's hard. And I remember I
Yeah,
had a friend who he was studying a different style of yoga, and they were talking about the chakras, and then the last one, the seventh one, is enlightenment, and you're supposed to envision every single one, and then at one point, if you are a good yogi, you'll reach enlightenment. And so he would do that exercise, and he would say, by the way, I removed the seventh one because I don't think no one's ever gonna get
no
there.
one's ever going to
It's
get.
unrealistic. And he
Yeah,
wasn't saying it to be obnoxious. Like, he really felt like the fact that someone is telling students that you will reach enlightenment if you can just envision, he thought it was
yeah,
ridiculous. And so he's like, the way I teach yoga, we don't have the seventh chakra. Like, he just,
yeah,
and I thought that was interesting, just to like kind of say, like, look, let's just focus on what we really feel and see and can feel intuitively, instead of this idea that we're gonna levitate and
yeah,
reach this state of mind that only few can reach.
yeah. I mean, I mean, the enlightenment for me is obviously not about that, like, transcendence. It's about, like, if we're talking the chakra system, it's about moving through all of our chakras, using that seventh chakra when we need it, the mystic, using the mystic when we need it, using the root chakra, using heart chakra, using the voice, using the throat chakra, using all of those chakras, bringing them online when we need them. That for me is what enlightenment is. It's not just living up in the mystic,
Yeah.
but it's the mystic comes online when it's needed. The heart comes online when it's needed. The voice comes online when it's needed. That
Yeah.
growl of anger from the solar plexus comes online when you need it. And you can move. That for me is enlightenment. It's not that living.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
it's total
it means everything
integration,
to different. It's integration. Yeah, totally.
complete integration and balance, and awareness that
Yeah,
you have
and
access
we
to all
need
of
those people. Yeah,
those things within you. And
totally.
it's I was watching this show. It's a really old show, but I didn't know it was old because I just discovered it. But it's called The Dog Whisperer, and
Oh, okay, I don't
this
know.
guy that runs it, his name is Caesar, and so he has this deep
Oh,
connection.
Caesar Milan.
Yeah,
Ah, yeah, yeah,
really
yeah,
into him right
yeah. I used
now,
to watch him.
and
Yeah, I
he
used
does
to
all
watch
these
him a while,
things,
a
and
few
he's
years ago.
like,
He's been around a long
he had this dog that was suffering post-traumatic stress syndrome because he was a dog used to find bombs and explosives. So he had been to
time.
Iraq and
Yeah,
like all these traumatic things, and then now he's retired. The dog's retired. He's not doing that, but he was trained to do those type of things. And now that he's not working, he has post-traumatic stress syndrome. So he kind of escapes and goes inwards every time there's a loud sound. So he had to help him. And at one point he said, I'm bringing him in the water. This is the type of, it's a Labrador. They love water. This is where their body naturally relaxes. I'm going to bring him. And it was so touching because he's holding this dog who is super, super tense. And slowly, at one point, the dog finally just is like this, 100% relaxed in Caesar's arms in the pool. And he goes, that's all I want. I just want him to rebalance. I just want him to find his balance.
He's in the present moment of the joy of being in water. He's no longer projecting like we humans do as well. He's no longer projecting into his trauma, you know, like it's not healthy fear anymore because he's out of that, but the water brings him into the present moment. I mean, that's a really great example of, I mean, animals do it. We're an animal. Why can't,
Yeah, we need to go. And he says,
our present moment.
Exactly. With the dog, he says, this dog was bred to be in the water. That's originally what he was bred for, to go find ducks in the water. And now he's been trained to use his nose and find explosives. But that's not who he really is. That wasn't his real nature. And we want to bring him back to his dog nature. That's all we want to do.
Yeah.
Just bring him back to being a dog, because he was trained to do something that was not really made for a dog. And we want to restore that balance and make him a dog again. And I just think like we can take all of that and apply it to humans, as a human, we're made to feel all these different things. We're not made to always be happy or always angry or always stressed or always in fear. We're made to refine that balance as a human. And like you said, like come back to that present moment. And the other thing that I really think is hilarious, because you can do it. I've seen yoga teachers do it a little bit, but so Caesar was with that dog, and whenever that dog would kind of start curling up again, he'd be like, snap out of it. He'd be like, get back here. Because he kind of left, and then he'd
back to the present moment.
Yeah. And then the dog would be like, and then he'd be like, there he is.
Yeah. He's back.
Like he could see him coming back. And I feel like if you observe humans and you're talking to someone or you're in a group, you sense right away when someone is spaced out or someone's going in their head and they're gone.
Yeah.
You sense that away.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, this is applicable to humans, finding our humanity again and coming back to that balance. And you have to just practice it, come back over and over and realize like, I'm so out of balance right now, but that's okay. I'll find my balance again. But just to be aware, like that you're over stimulated or something,
we're a culture that's just always up here.
Yeah.
We're in our heads constantly. Yeah.
And
bringing us, yoga is a fabulous tool when it's used in this way to bring us back into that, that real sensory embodied experience of what it is to be human. And for me, there's not enough of that in the yoga world. I know there's a lot of yoga teachers teaching in that really embodied, inclusive way, but for me, it's not the majority.
Yeah. And I think you need a very special teacher and a very special space if you are to listen to yourself and find your own balance in a group class. That's why I think for both of us, it's almost sacred to have our own practice, because that's when you have 100% of your own freedom and time to observe and feel and reconnect and be like, oh, I need to rebalance that. Or I just need to observe that and accept that today, this is how I am. It's okay. Yeah. But at least I know I'm like this today. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's power to choose how you want to deal with it. Yeah. I just wanted to come back to something that you said about just accepting ourselves as we are. I just want to add into that is that I think people get really confused about what accepting means. Like they think that means, oh yeah, I'm surrendering, or I like it, or I want to be that way, or whatever. But accepting something and just it comes back to that thing again of being in the present moment with what is true. It doesn't mean you like it. Right. It just means that you're just in the truth of what it is. So if you're still denying, I don't know, what's an example? Like just that acceptance of, okay, I'm angry right now. This is my present moment experience. I'm not in any sort of wishing I wasn't, trying to get rid of it. None of that. It's just that I don't like being angry, but I'm angry right now. I'm going to feel it, listen to what it is. But just to say that accepting doesn't mean liking, it's not the same thing at all. It can be a
No.
very uncomfortable experience. You can still accept it because it's there. It's what's happening right now.
Yeah, and I've talked about that as well a little bit on different podcasts, how hard it is, but how it's so necessary to be comfortable with discomfort, because we're going to always, I think, sometimes, or maybe it's just how I am. I thought for so long, like, the more conflict I resolve with people, the more conflict I resolve within myself, the less conflict I'm going to have in life. Like I won't have any anymore at one point. I'll be so good at it. And it's really hard for me to accept that that's never going to be the case. And so I've had to really be comfortable with discomfort. And when there's a lot of tension and I sense there's a lot of tension, I just have to, like, it sounds cliche, but I just have to really get centered and like take some deep breaths and be like, I'm sitting right now or standing with one person or a couple people, and I am so uncomfortable. There is so much tension, and I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know how I'm going to resolve this. I don't know how I'm going to fix this. And I'm just going to have to deal with the fact that I am so uncomfortable right now. And sometimes I just say that in my head, like, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Just to like deal with it. And
just to bring back to the present moment.
And for me, that's helpful just because I'm better at sitting with discomfort. Like I can do it now, even though sometimes you want to stop, you want to leave, or you want to fix it.
And sometimes it's great to leave. Sometimes you just got to leave. If it's too uncomfortable, you leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like there's nothing good that's going to come out of this right now. Like
it's just, and I'm not up for the conflict today. I'm just not there. I didn't sleep well last night, and whatever. Like And also, I mean, I think we talked about this last week, you and I, when we had a conversation. Is I feel like when you become more integrated, it's possible that there's even more conflict, because
you're more aware.
You're more aware, but also you're less likely to tell people what they want to hear. You're less likely to please people. You're just going to be real and with who you are. And possibly there's going to be more conflict, but it's going to be conflict that hopefully is, it has this purpose. You just work it out, and then you can move on to the next, the next level, stage, whatever, or the next the next stage of that relationship or whatever, and it might be, okay, too much conflict here. I need to let this person go. This is not healthy for either of us. This is my boundary, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that you get, there's sometimes with people more conflict, and it's not angry, reactive conflict, but it's, okay, this is my boundary, that's yours. Where do we go with this?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
your boundaries are much more clear, and you're less porous. So less conflict actually isn't ultimately, for me, necessarily a positive thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah, it's true. And we've talked about the boundaries and feeling your limits and your boundaries. And I've realized maybe over the past 2 years that sometimes when someone says you need boundaries, that if you don't really know what that means physically in your body, it's just a concept. And I think that the more you accept or you integrate certain parts of yourself, the better you know yourself, the better you love yourself and respect yourself, then those boundaries kind of are set naturally without you intellectually being like, I'm going to say no. And then it becomes physical where your entire being just cannot give in. And so all those people pleasing ways you had before, like, oh, I'll give in to make them happy, then there won't be conflict. It's not that important to me. I can give in. And then you realize at one point, like, I can't give in. I just can't. And it's not because I'm being stubborn. It's not because I want my own way. It's because my body I can't do it.
Yeah, this is a boundary for me. Yeah.
And I feel that more and more. And I feel less worried about pleasing somebody. But that didn't happen because I made myself turn into that, because sometimes you have these these type of people that are like, oh yeah, well, learn to say no. Stop worrying what others think. Why do you care so much about what others think? And if you
We
do
always do.
care what others think, you can't stop yourself just like by convincing yourself that you don't care.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't make, and so anyone who's listening to this who feels like, wow, I have a really hard time saying no, I don't want people to get mad at me, I don't want conflict. My advice is to just naturally get more and more in tune with who you are and really know who you are, know what your needs are, and work on that, and then let the saying no or not people pleasing anymore come in
Yeah.
naturally, because I don't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
see how
Totally.
you can force yourself to just, you can say no verbally, but the person
If
in front of you,
energetically, yeah,
energetically, that person feels
yeah,
like there's some kind of
whether it's a hard
weakness.
no or not.
They
Yeah.
feel if you're feeling a little shitty about it, like, oh, they sense if you're feeling guilty for saying no.
Totally. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's not very effective.
Yeah.
And I just think that the more, yeah, the closer you are to knowing yourself, respecting yourself, loving yourself naturally, like that's starting to build inside you, then naturally your boundaries will be
Yeah. The
set.
boundaries just become really like a really natural and um, yeah, just organic expression of who you are. You know, it's not okay, I'm going to set a boundary now. They just become like you're listening to your intuition. It's coming in the present moment time, and you're just going, no. You know, it becomes just a really natural expression of who you are. Yeah, like that's a really
Yeah.
great point. It's not about trying to set boundaries and intellectualizing boundaries, although you might need to fake it till you make it. It's much more
Yeah.
that, okay, this is a no. I don't know why it's a no right now. Oh, this is a yes. I don't know why this is a yes right now, but I'm gonna walk in here. I'm gonna keep my eyes open. I'm gonna stay in the present moment. It might become a no tomorrow, but I'm just gonna go in there and see what happens. You know, and yeah, and then like you said, the boundaries just arise. They just arise naturally. You don't have to overthink boundaries, really. Just
Right. It's not a
yeah,
thinking process.
no, it's
And
not.
I think also when you are more aware of who you are and all of those boundaries start being set, people that aren't used to you having boundaries are gonna, it's hard for them
Oh, they'll
sometimes
naturally react. Yeah, yeah, of course.
because they're
And
used to your
that's
pattern,
part
they're
of it.
used to you giving
Yeah,
in. They
part of
think,
it.
who are you now? Are you
Yeah,
changing? Are you resisting me?
yeah,
What is
yeah,
this?
yeah.
What is this? You're so difficult now, but that just naturally
It's
happens,
just part of
and
it. Yeah,
it's part
there's
of our
nothing to do
growth.
about that, really. Yeah, yeah.
And I think I told you this. I want to just share a quick story. And I shared this with you, I think, when it happened. It was like a year or two ago, when I owned a yoga studio. And as a yoga studio owner, you have a lot of students who try to come without paying, or who want to get a deal or whatever, because they have their idea that you should be so cool, right? Even though you have children, you have
So
rent,
yogic.
right? You have the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
expenses as
yeah. Same.
everybody
Yeah, exactly.
else,
Yeah,
and they
totally.
somehow feel that you shouldn't care about it. And so it was very hard when people would come and they wouldn't pay for a class, or they'd want something, and I would be like, oh, I'll give it to them, and then later I'd regret it and feel like, wow, I just gave something away and I don't feel good about it. I feel taken advantage of. So it was super hard for me for a long time, even though I had people around me being like, just say no. And I'd be like, okay, but then I feel crappy. And then I'll get a
Yeah.
mean email that someone says I'm not very nice. And I hate all that. But at one point I had someone come to my studio, and it was just me at the time. It wasn't during class, and they wanted something, and I couldn't give it to them. And they didn't expect me to say no. And I wasn't mean. My body, I just felt like a cement pillar. It was so strange. Like all of a sudden I just said, yeah, I can't do that. And they literally, their body was like, what? But blah, blah, blah. And you should, because, and that's not very cool of you. And that's not very businesslike. And and they just started doing all this crap on me.
All this projection. Yeah.
And I didn't feel guilty. I just felt like I saw what they were doing. Like I really clearly saw that they were trying to get me to give in so that I would feel good about them liking me, or they thought I should give in so because they thought it was unfair. And they couldn't convince me. And even as I was standing there, I thought, this person can talk to me about whatever they want. They can say whatever mean things they want. I physically can't give in today. Even if
Yeah.
what they're saying I think is mean or can maybe be hurtful or whatever, I can't give in. I just physically can't do it. And then
Yeah.
they were mad, you know, and I wasn't even mean or yelling or anything. I just was like, yeah, I'm really sorry, but I can't do it. This is just how it is, and whatever. And then they left really mad, like they slammed the door and left. And I was like proud of myself, even though they were mad. I thought, I'm so proud that I didn't give in.
Yeah.
And I didn't give in mentally. I mean, it wasn't mental.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah. I
was
know what you mean.
all
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
me.
It was very intuitive, clear, aligned, soulful boundary.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's when it clicked in me, like, oh, all these people who are always saying to me, you don't need to be a people pleaser. Learn to say no. It's a business. Don't give in to people. You need to make a living as well. Those things that people advised me on, I got it intellectually what they were saying, but it didn't
Yeah.
change it who
Oh,
I
it's got it.
was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's got
know?
to land in a embodied way. Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
now
Totally.
when those things happen, when I feel a natural limit, I just feel so grateful, like that it's there. Like I'm like, oh, this is so great that it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what this person says.
Yeah.
I can't give in. And
I
it's
can't
not,
violate my own
I'm not
boundary.
being
Yeah. Yeah.
stubborn. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just
Yeah.
literally cannot do it. It would be, yeah, a violation. It would be total betrayal.
Yeah.
Complete.
Of myself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, of
And
myself.
ultimately of them. If you're giving more than you want to, it's an ultimately a betrayal of the other person as well, energetically speaking.
Yeah.
Because there's not a fair exchange in the relationship. If you're giving more than you want to, it's yeah, it's a violation of both of your boundaries. Yeah.
And it's really cool to become aware when you don't have that completely integrated into it, intuitive limit boundary setting thing going on. When you don't have that yet naturally, it's still important to realize when you have given in and when you have violated yourself, not to feel shitty about it, but just to be like,
Yeah. Just
wow,
learning, research.
I
Yeah.
don't feel good about that decision. That person's happy, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just gave in and I betrayed myself, and it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good. My spirit,
Yeah.
my soul, my heart, whatever, just is really
It's not
unhappy now
aligned.
about this. Like this is
Yeah. Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Totally. And then yeah, it's definitely no reason to shame yourself. You just learn from it, and or not. You just go, oh, okay, that's interesting. I gave in then when I didn't want to. Why? Just that investigation. It's not because I'm a piece of shit. It's because, wow, okay, why? It's just those questions. Yeah. And you'll
Yeah.
probably do it again. I mean, like what we call boundaries. Um, I mean, it's nothing that's ever a perfectionist thing. You know what I mean? You never reach, um, because of the messiness of human interactions and relationships and situations in life. I mean, it's never a thing that you can have complete control over. Like, it's not another thing to have a perfectionist ideal about, like, oh yeah, one day, like enlightenment, oh yeah, one day I'm going to be this, like shame proof robot. It's not about
Yeah.
that at all. It's just about, yeah, I mean, like, it's difficult. It's just like getting more and more clear on what your intuitive system is telling you by listening to things like fear and getting angry when you need to, and those things that you don't want to feel, getting more and more clear on your intuitive sense. And then you'll get more and more clear on where you might be about to violate your own boundary, or um you might be about to violate someone else's boundary, or like, it's never going to be perfect. It's just not, because of the messiness of human interaction and life. And I think these things, these kind of spiritual concepts, just become often another thing for us to hang our perfectionism and our shame on. Oh, if I
Yeah.
can't set a good boundary with someone, I didn't do that today, I'm a piece of shit, I'm shame, I'm going to shame myself about it. But actually, it's not about that at all. It's that, okay, it's just that question, why did I do, like, why was I susceptible to that today? Why did I give something that I didn't want to give today? Just
Absolutely.
that
And there's this
inquiry.
self shame, but there's also the people shaming you, right? Like there's also, you
trying
feel
to
that
be
you're
good.
in
Yeah.
integrity and doing the right thing and being honest and fair.
Yeah.
And then you have people projecting on you or talking about you or sending you hate mail or whatever they decide they want to do to make you feel like you're less spiritual or not doing the right thing. That's also hard.
According to who?
Yeah,
You
according
know
to
what I mean?
their weird,
According to who?
standards
Yeah.
of what
Or
spirituality
just different
is,
standards. Like we're
different
all, we all
standards.
have our different, like idea of what is right and wrong. And yeah,
Yeah, it's like you didn't live up to my standards, so
and
I'm going to
yeah,
make you feel crappy.
yeah, 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 yeah. When actually it's not about you at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah, yeah,
interesting, all these standards, because all of us do it. We all have, like, I have really high ones. I believe that I set the bar really, really high. And so if I don't find somebody in integrity or honest or whatever my ideals are, it's not even, mine's
yeah,
not even linked to spirituality. Mine's just more of like being an honest person or whatever my ideals are. Like I can just feel so like hurt, or
yeah,
disappointed or
yeah.
betrayed or wounded or whatever, because that person, I thought they were like that and they're not. And then I just feel like, wow, I'm so let down. But yeah,
But
in the
I
end,
mean,
it's,
we've talked about this disillusionment thing a
yeah,
lot because it's a really, really interesting subject. But again, it's another way we don't stay in the truth of the present moment, or we can't see it for whatever reason. And that
yeah,
doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean that we were bad or wrong or whatever, that we couldn't see it in the moment. It's just understanding that when certain illusions are dismantling, just to kind of, oh, you know what I mean? It's not that they have disappointed you, it's that they're a human being who are capable of all sorts of behavior, and
yeah,
they've you're dismantling your illusions about who they actually were. You know what I mean? Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah, yeah.
everyone has like their dark side and their light side or whatever. And
Totally.
I
Just a
almost
human
wonder,
being.
like, not in a mathematical way, but I almost sometimes wonder, like, to the extent that someone is so amazing and so great and so loving and so whatever they are, when you see them in that light, I almost believe like they have that exact same power or capability in their
Mm,
dark side to be just
totally.
as awful. Like, I don't know.
Totally.
I feel
Yeah.
like it, you can't not have both. And I almost feel, but this is just a concept that I created in my head, that you can even take Trump for example, like all that darkness and manipulation and all that, whatever type of intelligence you want to call it, behind all of that capability to be that dark, I am positive he has the exact same potential to take
Yeah.
all of that and make it like just as powerful in a positive way. um like
Oh,
it's not,
sure.
it's almost, you
Imagine the
imagine.
drive of Trump and the what he's been able to achieve. Imagine if he filtered that into um, what we would call positive, like
Yeah,
positive social direction, empathy. Imagine if with a man with that drive was able to funnel those things into, you know, the betterment of his country. Imagine what they could achieve.
it'd be
Totally. I mean,
huge.
I'm totally with you on stuff like that. I'm like when people like the polarities, when you see someone who's over the top happy and it's not resonating as a deep joy, I'm kind of thinking, I wonder how low they go when they're not in front of me. You know what I mean? And it's not to judge them
Absolutely.
in any way. It's just like that does tend to be the way of nature, is that it balances itself out somehow, you know? Like from polarities, it sort of eventually has to come to a balance. And so people who are one extreme, I'm always wondering what is the like. It actually shows you immediately what is the possibility in the other direction. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It
yes.
totally shows you, and it's not to judge people. It's just to understand. Oh yeah, I'm getting an intuitive hit here. Okay, this happiness is not resonating with me as joy. okay, they might be able to really be super depressed, and that could be a reason. Like, you've got access to information, and you can choose to avoid that person, or you can choose to have a deeper compassion for them, like it just, yeah. Oh yeah, it's really important intuitive information. When you see those, you can sort of see an extreme capacity for something, it'll flip into the opposite really quickly, yeah. It's just for me that's an important part of the intuitive understanding, is seeing
Yeah,
those.
and I believe like
Yeah,
all those things that we would say are negative or dark, I feel like they do have a place, and they have a power to them that can be used in
totally,
a good, if we're going to use labels, they could be used in ways that are helpful
totally.
in certain situations.
And
And
connecting, and yeah, totally. Yeah,
yeah, and I just find that so interesting when I have seen only one side of somebody and then I see the other side, and I always feel shocked for some reason, like, wow, but then it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because
yeah.
it's almost like an energy or a power that's just flipping to the other side.
Nature
And
will
so,
balance itself. Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah.
natural. Yeah, yeah,
And finding that balance within ourselves, knowing when we're out of balance and trying to figure out how to become
yeah.
balanced again is so important to
Yeah,
me,
and balanced in our own way, and understanding that there's all sorts of different types of balance, and it's just a massive spectrum. And even from moment to moment, like from hour to hour, we're constantly trying to find our. I mean, it's not like balance is like, I'm just a bit wary of the word balance, because for me it's more like, it's more of a harmony,
Yeah,
like it's
harmony.
more of a, like a harmony. And again, back to that word of integration.
Yeah.
And you can move into an anger real quickly, and it'll be a clear, precise, like, what we've talked about is sacred anger, just to use an example of anger. If someone's angry at you, though, it'll be a clear, precise, you'll feel that it's aligned with their truth, and you've violated a boundary, and so they're angry with you. Versus someone who's like in a rage and it's really out of control. You know what I mean? You can sense those things, and then that person who can be a really clear, sacred anger, it'll harmonize back pretty quickly. It's expressed, it's shaken off, it's done. But that person who's in a rage, who's like, their capacity for switching between lots of different extremes. I mean, that's, for me, that's just like,
It's not in
evidence. You know
harmony.
what I mean?
Yeah. It's not in
Yeah,
harmony.
it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, and to harmonize that in some way,
Yeah.
there's possibly going to be some behavior that goes on that's got to. You know what I
I
guess
know what
what
you
I'm trying
mean.
to say. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
there's this harmony that, and it's not about the actual good or bad emotion. It's just about the harmony of how aligned it is with what's our deeper truth. And we all feel it. We can
Yeah.
all feel when someone's not being completely truthful. You know what I mean? I don't know where I'm going
No,
with
I know
that, but
what you mean. And I like that you used the word harmony, and that you analyzed a little more the word balance, because I remember once we had, like 2 years ago, we had a conversation, and I was saying, oh, well, I thought this person, blah, 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 and I thought they were like that. And you said, well, Amy, you need to realize that your idea of being balanced and who you are when you're balanced is never going to be the same for that person. Like, that person, when they're balanced, when they're having a good day, when they're in harmony, is going to look very different than what yours is, and
I can't even
you
remember that
did. And I
at
was
all.
like, that helped me, because I think I was thinking, oh, this is what balance is, and it's the same for everyone. And then just that comment made me let go of that idea that was very fixed, and make me realize, yeah, that person to me is slightly unbalanced, but that's their balance. That's most likely the best balance they're going to find in
Yeah,
their life. Like, it
yeah,
probably won't get any more balance than that, meaning that that's their natural harmony. And from
yeah.
the outside, I'm thinking, wow, there needs to be more balance. But that is theirs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. According to their life experience, their wounding, their
Yep.
background, their how safe they feel, all of those, all of those things. That's how they find their harmony, and it might be by going into a rage, because that's how they harmonize or
Yeah,
they
or
go into an
yeah,
addiction because that's how they harmonize what's going on for them
yeah,
somehow. And like we think of harmony as um, like only a positive thing, but I think that there's so much in that word. It's just a kind of a it's just for me, if we're talking about human beings, that harmony is just an alignment with what's true right now. It's true right now that I'm an addict, and I could still, I'm in harmony with what's true. You know what I mean? It's not perhaps where I want to be in my life. I can find a different kind of harmony, but this is where I am right now. This is my harmony. I need my 2 or 3 glasses of wine or whatever it is, your addiction of choice. I need to go shopping or whatever, but that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? And
and it's
yeah,
less extreme than it can be
yeah, yeah.
because there
And
are
it's where I'm
times,
at.
yeah,
It's where I'm at.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. This is how I find my harmony right now. And then it's again like when you can sit in that and go, oh yeah, okay, maybe this behavior once helped me to find a harmony that was fine for me, but now I'm maxed out on my credit cards. I'm not in a harmony with what I need to be doing anymore, Yeah.
absolutely,
And
because
then you
it's
get
like a
those
living
opportunities
thing.
to,
Yeah, it's always
yeah,
moving and changing, and
yeah,
so
always moving and changing. Yeah. Yeah, that harmony is, yeah, maybe harmony is not even the right word. It's just, I think it comes back to the theme of this conversation, which is just that ability to see what is true, and be with reality in present moment time. I think that's what all of our conversation today has come back to, and it doesn't matter if we like it or not, but it's just that we have that ability to see what is true and then decide what we want to do about it, you know.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and we need that. And you've mentioned that before, like that's what our world needs is
Yeah.
some people to just be more in the present moment, more grounded, see the
Yeah.
reality of things, be
Yeah.
willing to look at that without saying it's good or bad, but just like this is really what's
This
going
is the
on.
truth.
This is
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah. This is the truth is, we've got COVID-19. The truth is we've got authoritarian leaders around the world. The truth is we've got a lot of inequality. This is the truth. Now, what can I do? Yeah, we need none of this BS, and it comes back to the why I've kind of pulled away from the yoga world. I want, I want to be around people who want that groundedness, take action, like, and in their own way. Where have I got power? I don't want to escape into this love and light thing. I want to be on the ground. I want to be seeing what is real. I want to be just really honest and truthful in the trenches of life and what it is. I want to look that homeless person in the eye and say, I see you. I see the reality of your situation. All of those things that build empathy and compassion and connection with other human beings that, have it way more tough than we do. And I mean, COVID-19 is a great opportunity to do that. And unfortunately, certain countries around the world have leaders that are not going to take that opportunity, but we still can. We can still take that opportunity to connect with others in ways that we haven't thought about before, Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's all about, like you said earlier, taking that time to really be for reflection, time for reflection,
Yeah.
and
Slowing
listening to
down and
yourself, slowing down,
yeah.
seeing what's really happening. And throughout history, people have always been punished or something when they call out the truth, you know?
Yeah. Truth teller is not no, it's
It's
a
so
hard
weird,
position to
right?
be in. Yeah. The truth teller, and that's why a lot of people don't like to be in it, because the truth teller is not a comfortable position. It never has been in human, it's not a comfortable position. But
No, and
I
we can,
mean,
yeah,
most of us don't have the capital T truth teller in our like in our soul repertoire. Most of us aren't going to be those real, like, get out there and really tell the truth, like, I don't know, a Martin Luther King, for example. Most of us are not in that soul realm of having to do that job. But it's just like in our own lives, where can we tell the truth? We don't have, and again, it can be sacred. You don't have to tell the truth to anyone else. If it's just your truth and you want to keep it as a truth for you, no problem. But it's just about seeing It's just seeing it,
Yeah.
each individual just seeing it. And then you don't have to tell anyone else.
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be something that you get out there and you go, I want to, I'm putting myself at risk because I'm telling the truth. No, you don't have to.
But it's
It
so
can just
sad
be,
that we, as a human race, have that risk of being punished
no
or
one likes a
killed
truth teller.
or attacked or whatever,
Yeah. Well,
criticized.
it makes us feel unsafe. Like we feel like our survival is threatened if someone shakes our, shakes our world with truth. It's whether it's a truth that is seemingly going to make our lives better, it's still, we don't like change. We don't like, we feel like it's a threat to our survival. We
Yeah.
don't, we don't like it.
And I've noticed, actually, if you think about it, like, I love stand-up comedians, and they're the truth tellers.
Truth tellers. Yeah, they
They don't
are.
they don't
They
care.
totally are.
They want
Yeah.
to provoke. If you think
Yeah.
if they could be joking or not, if you don't like it, too bad. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
Oh,
what's
yeah. They're the
happening,
modern day truth tellers.
right?
Totally. Totally. I mean, there's others as well on a much more serious level, but totally, they can get away with being the modern day truth tellers through their humor. Yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
they observe and see it all.
Yeah.
If I had more of that desire to be on a stage or something, I just feel
Yeah.
like that's, yeah, you could just really
Yeah.
go at it, because there's so much
You can.
there, because you can definitely see that what's happening. You can be sarcastic about it. You can show
Totally.
people how ridiculous it is, and people love it. I mean, some people
Yeah.
really, really
There's
connect with
part of us
that.
that
And
craves the truth. You know what I mean? There's part
yeah,
of us that craves it. And I mean, truth tellers can also be anonymous. You know what I mean? Sometimes the best truth tellers are anonymous, like journalistic sources or whatever. They can be anonymous.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to the
Yeah,
truth.
whistleblowers.
Whistleblowers,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it comes down to the
And
truth. It comes down to being able to look at things for what they really are.
yeah,
And
without our illusions, without our wishful thinking, without our fantasy thinking, without our, wounds getting and a trauma getting in the way, although that's very difficult. But, just working slowly towards that integration of, I can see the truth of what this moment is and what I'm
yeah,
going to do with it. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, thank you for talking about this. I hope that our
Oh, you're
viewers find
welcome.
it as interesting as I have. I always love
You're
talking to
welcome.
you
You're
about
welcome.
anything and just hearing your views and your perspectives. I love just
Thank you.
how it's down to earth. It's not about like I'm not against people praying massive prayer and meditation and all that, but I do feel that it's so important for us to really see what's going on right now, and
Yeah.
we don't need to sugarcoat anything. People have their own needs. Sometimes they need to do those meditations and just kind of feel like
Oh,
they're in a
totally. And
bubble,
it's
but
super
it's okay.
valuable. It's not about being against it. And I hope that I haven't given that
No,
impression.
you
I'm
didn't give
not
that
against
idea.
that at all. Yeah, I'm not at all. I think they're really important parts of who we are as human beings. But if the thing is if we're using it to escape what reality is, then it's going to be a problem. If we're using it to become more clear on what our reality is, it's very powerful. But like with everything, it can, according to our intention, spirituality, yoga, meditation, whatever, can be used in lots of different ways. And some ways it'll connect us more to ourselves and others, and other ways it'll disconnect ourselves from
Yeah, and
others.
the bottom line is basically to just be aware of how you feel, what you see, what you think, what your needs are, and just listen to that. You know what I mean? And
Give it a voice at the table.
yeah,
See
absolutely.
what it wants to say, and you might not like what it has to say, in the sense that, okay, yeah, that's crazy shit. I'm not listening to that. But at least you've listened, you've given it a voice. It's not going to come back like a monster later. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's just,
absolutely.
you give it a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I loved our discussion today, and I'm sure we'll be
Yeah,
seeing
me
you
too.
again at one point and discussing something else of a different topic.
There's so much to talk about. I'm sure we will.
Yeah. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah. Thanks very much for having me. Catch you later.
Bye.